Paul, thanks for joining us. Good morning. Give me the must-win situation this weekend.
I think it's Bob Stoops in Oklahoma. A loss, and suddenly you'll hear people say, is he really doing a good job, even though he was in the playoffs last year? That's the problem with being the head coach at Oklahoma. And he's been to 4 BCS championships, and he was in the semifinals, but Sooner fans are anxious for another title, and without a win over Urban Meyer tomorrow night, they will have to wait another year.
Is that I don't look at Oklahoma as a high pressure or the highest of pressures, but I don't know. Correct me if I'm wrong. Is there more pressure there than any other place?
It's interesting. Last year, going into last season, he was under pressure, and he turned it around with Baker Mayfield. So, I think I'm talking more in terms of this season. There's plenty of, I think Helton at Southern Cal better hope he doesn't get blown out by Stanford because, as an interim coach and as a head coach, the 52-6 loss to Alabama, it wasn't really a good look for him in his first game as the full-time head coach.
Well, you wonder.
And by the way, Dan, SC has been known to fire coaches pretty quickly.
They have, sometimes at the airport.
But sometimes there, sometimes at alumni functions.
Paul, but are we just hoping USC is back? That maybe they're. You can't put them in the top 25 to start the year. I know that we do it. It's almost like a blanket, stamp of approval. But it feels like college football's rooting for USC to be back in the picture, but they're not.
No, they're not, and I get tired of this cliche. You've heard it, boy. College football is certainly a lot better when Michigan is good. Who cares? There are plenty of schools to go around. Just ask Tom Herman at Houston. But I was surprised 2 weeks ago, when I started hearing everyone make a case for SC against Alabama, and I just didn't see it. Yeah, they have good players across the field. They just don't have enough of them. It's not so much the players on the field that makes Alabama so good. It's the backups. They could start for SC in most positions. So, I don't think they're back. And I think after Stanford beats them tomorrow night, they'll be vying with the Rams for the worst team in L.A., although SC will not win that award.
Saban and Kiffin in that exchange on the sideline, what would lead Nick to be that upset in that game to yell at Lane Kiffin in front of everybody?
Well, listen, it's obvious Kiffin took a chance on that play, which turned into a fumble, but Alabama was leading at the time, 38-3. If you want to play around with something, isn't that a pretty good time to do it? He just did not like the fumble, and he didn't like giving up the touchdown. And what I really don't understand, Dan, I think I'm right there as co-chairman of the Nick Saban fan club. But he could have blown it off after the game, and when he was asked about the conversation, he said that wasn't a conversation, that was an ass-chewing. Now, it's great theater, but it really came off to me as being arrogant and a bully, and I don't know if Nick Saban really needs that. And then last night on his radio show, he went even deeper. He said, "Well, I need my coaches and players to be obedient." Is this guy the Sultan of Brunei? He's the head coach at Alabama, and I just don't think he needs to treat people. Even though I thought it was interesting. Someone said to me, Nick Saban has done something no one else in America has ever accomplished, and that's made Lane Kiffin into a sympathetic figure.
I think being the head coach at Alabama is more important than the Sultan of Brunei, though. I think more pressure there, just to be on the record with that.
When it starts paying more, though, it's really going to be a good gig.
It might be close, though. Where's Lane Kiffin? Where's Lane in a year?
I think he'll be a head coach somewhere. Now, don't pin me down, please, but there will be a number of openings. His name gets linked to any place where there's an angry fan base, which is about half of the schools. He served his sentence. And I think another thing, he was married. He's no longer married. And I think being divorced, this may be one of the few times in American history that being divorced helps you get a job on a college campus. Because I think he's eliminated that issue from his job interview, and I think he needed to. And I don't know why someone won't take a chance. I know that I was fairly critical of him at SC, just like everyone else, but he is the best offensive coordinator I have seen in a long time, and I really don't believe Alabama would have won the title last year without his play calling.
Now, wait, explain about being divorced on a college campus,
Okay,
and how that helps him.
I knew I walked into that, Dan. Kiffin was living apart from his wife. She was still in L.A. and he was in Tuscaloosa, and there were stories, web stories, you name it, discussing that. I'll try to keep this clean.
Okay.
But linking him with nefarious activities. Is that okay for morning radio and television?
So he was flirting on the internet or Twitter, or was he dating people?
Yeah, you name it. He was accused of doing it. Whether he was really doing it or not, I think is debatable. But I think when the divorce went through, it eliminated that from the conversation. So as a divorced man, he's an easier hire. By the way, I'm sure a lot of people will challenge that assertion. That's quite all right.
He's Paul Finebaum from the Mothership. SEC Nation will be live from Ole Miss on Saturday at 10 a.m. Michigan State, Notre Dame. Is this a must-win for Notre Dame? You mentioned Oklahoma had the must-win situation. What about Notre Dame?
Yeah, unlike 50 years ago, Dan, they can't go for the tie here. That was for elderly people out there,
absolutely.
Not you youngsters. About 3 people in America got that joke.
Thank you. And we're 2 of them.
They have to. Yeah, we are. They have to win this game because as great as Notre Dame is, they are not making the playoff with 2 losses. And last year they had narrow misses. They can't afford this. I don't think they're going to lose, by the way, but I appreciate the question anyway. I think Notre Dame is really good.
Oh, I do. Now that they've settled on their quarterback, and I think he's a really good quarterback, and they got some skilled position players. Comes down to, can the defense be a stout defense when you need to? I just look at Michigan State as maybe the most underrated program in college football in the last since D'Antonio's been there. It's pretty incredible that Ohio State gets the attention, Wisconsin gets more attention, now Michigan gets more attention, and Michigan State has been a great, great program.
Yeah, I agree with you. I mean, they were in the playoffs last year. They won a couple of Big Tens, and I think Harbaugh and D'Antonio could walk down the street, and most people would think D'Antonio was like his security guard.
Yeah.
I've not seen anything quite like Jim Harbaugh sucking the air and the oxygen out of that state, that other school. But having said all that, I still don't think they're good enough to win this game. But they are an incredible program, and I thought they had a great year last year until Alabama steamrolled them 38-0.
Should Central Michigan consider giving that win back to Oklahoma State?
No, I don't think. In my mind, they really didn't win the game. But what are you supposed to do? Wrap it in a package and FedEx it to Mike Gundy's office? How do you give back a game?
Well,
you could. You could say we don't feel like we deserved it, but they did have a pretty incredible play at the end. To me, the mistake there, Dan, was from the Big 12. This is a conference too busy sending out feelers to high schools in Pennsylvania for future expansion, and I don't know why they. They have a crew in a room in Dallas, the officiating supervisors who watch all these games. And this wasn't a game opposite 9 other games. It was like the 11 o'clock game. It was the only game going, but obviously someone was asleep or out getting another bag of Doritos when they should have signaled immediately to that stadium and gotten attention on the sidelines to protest. Mike Gundy, he took some responsibility, but he does have a few other things going on as opposed to checking his rule book in his back pocket.
Well, I think it starts with the officials and Gundy. I think it's the officials and then Gundy, but nobody knew the rule, and that's why when it was brought up that hey, Central Michigan should give that back. No, they shouldn't. I'm fine with them not being Sportsman of the Year or winning an ESPY.
They will not win the Arthur Ashe Award.
They will not. But if they gave the win back, They could be Sportsman of the Year. I understand that, but I don't put any fault. I don't put the onus on Central Michigan to do the right thing. The right thing was to get the rule right. Then you wouldn't have given Central Michigan the opportunity to have that win. Tell everybody we said hello, and I mean everybody at Ole Miss. If you could go around.
Yeah, it will be fairly disappointing this year. I remember I talked to you last year, and Katy Perry stole the show, and it's going to be a Grove without Katy Perry tomorrow. It won't be the same as 2 years ago.
All right. When you saw her, were you nervous?
Yeah. She was holding a corn dog. You don't remember that?
And we'll leave you with that. Yes. Thank you, Paul.
Thanks, Dan.
All right, bud. Paul Finebaum, College Game Day.
The Dan Patrick Show, weekday mornings on Audience.